Washington, there's breaking news tonight from the Wall Street Journal of a new criminal investigation involving the president. According to people familiar with the matter, federal prosecutors in Manhattan are investigating whether President Trump's 2017 inaugural committee misspent some of their record $107 million it raised from donations. Prosecutors are also examining whether donors gave money in exchange for access to the incoming Trump administration. According to the report, this latest investigation arose in part from the material seized in connection with the Michael Cohen probe. In response, the Presidential Inaugural Committee said it staged a celebration of our democratic processes and did so in full compliance with all applicable laws. They added that we simply have no evidence the investigation exists. Well, meanwhile, amid this mounting legal problem, President Trump is running around like Henry VIII trying to find a way out of those problems. With each new revelation from the Southern District of New York, the president has become more deeply implicated in a scheme to break campaign finance laws. That's not just according to prosecutors. It's according to Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who coordinated hush money payments to two women on Trump's behalf. Cohen has confessed to committing that crime at Trump's direction. However, the president is now claiming without any evidence that prosecutors only brought those charges against Cohen to embarrass him, Donald Trump. Here's Trump on Fox today.
What he did was all unrelated to me, except for the two campaign finance charges that are not criminal and shouldn't have been on there. They put that on to embarrass me. They put those two charges on to embarrass me. They're not criminal charges. So what happened is either Cohen or the prosecutors, in order to embarrass me, said, listen, I'm making this deal for reduced time and everything else. Do me a favor, put these two charges on.
Well, Trump also says he's not responsible for the illegal payoffs because it was his lawyer, not him, who carried out the crimes on his behalf.
And Michael Cohen says that he lied in order to protect you.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
Let me tell you, I never directed him to do anything wrong. Whatever he did on his own. He's a lawyer. A lawyer who represents a client is supposed to do the right thing. That's why you pay them a lot of money, etc., etc. He is a lawyer. He represents a client. I never directed him to do anything incorrect or wrong.
Well, as Trump continues to deflect blame and shirk responsibility, there are new signs that the weight of his predicament has begun to sink in on him, despite telling Reuters that he's not concerned about impeachment because he thinks, quote, the people would revolt. NBC News is today reporting that he's more worried that he leads on. Quote, Trump has told people close to him in recent days that he's alarmed by the prospect of being impeached. According to NBC sources, quote, Trump has ranted about why no one around him is doing anything to stop any of it, and vented about the lack of support he believes he has in Congress and within his own White House. I'm joined now by Democratic Congressman Eric Stalwell, who sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Mieke Eoyang is Vice President of the National Security Program at Third Way. David Jolly, a former Republican congressman who has cut his ties with his party, and John Barrett is a former Justice Department official and professor at St. John's School of Law. Thank you all for joining us. I want to start with Congressman Stalwell. This is a breaking story late this evening. It came in tonight. Questions about what they did with the money. Did they misspend over $100 million? Were people paying to play? Is this one of those pay-to-play schemes where they paid the new administration in the inaugural money so they could get something and they got something?
Best evidence today that Donald Trump presided over a criminal campaign, a criminal transition, and continues to preside over a criminal presidency. And this is someone who ran on promising to drain the swamp in the very hours that he was about to become president. During all these inaugural celebrations, it looks like there was a pay-to-play scheme. Now, someone has already pled guilty connected to the Republican Party. A consultant pled guilty in August of this year for giving tickets to a Ukrainian pro-Russian oligarch. So it's already smelled. For the inauguration, for the 2016 inauguration.
Why, let me ask you the obvious question, because you're in the intelligence. Why was some pro-Russian Ukrainian so hot to trot to get into a dance at an inaugural party?
It's because that never happened at any prior inauguration. But when Donald Trump came on the scene, he injected into the American bloodstream Russian influence. That's why we never saw so many Russians around presidential candidates.
Mieke, this is what I thought about from the beginning. Two things: Russians everywhere. And number two, this treatment by Russians of us as some country you could buy. The president can be bought, You can buy him, you can get to his nephew, you can get to somebody in the family. They treated us like we're an old Romanoff, crooked old family running our country. It smells.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you see is that the Trump administration hung a for sale sign out on their campaign from the beginning. When he is doing these deals on the Moscow Tower, which Cohen was lying about and pled guilty to lying about, saying, hey, I want you to help me out with this deal in Moscow, and oh, by the way, I'm still running for president. When you see the way that he treats the Trump Foundation as his own personal checkbook for all his things, you know that he wants to enrich his own pockets. This is about Trump himself, and that he is open for business, and he still is.
Well, corruption's worldwide. We always thought it wasn't here. Anyway, throughout his Fox News interview today, the president took every opportunity to deny anything wrong, even when the questions were totally unrelated to campaign finance violations. Let's listen.
Trump didn't violate campaign finance laws. Michael Cohen pled guilty to something that's not even a crime. It's not a campaign finance violation. Number two, or it's not even under campaign finance. Number two, if it was, it's not even a violation. Trump did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. The two campaign finance charges that are not criminal, they're not criminal charges. They're not criminal.
I want to move on.
I never directed him to do anything wrong. I never directed him to do anything incorrect or wrong.
What is your reaction today to getting that number? It's still below 50, but 46% approval.
Well, I think it's amazing because I only get bad news. I only get bad stories. You look at the paper, it's all nonsense. It's campaign contributions that, if it were even a campaign contribution, is totally legal. You look at stories one after another, they're all legal. The great lawyers that do that stuff are saying there's nothing illegal.
David, let me ask you about this. I know you're from Florida, but he seems like a very upset New York cab driver in bad traffic, say in July. It's hot out, it's miserable, the traffic's not going anywhere, and he's exasperated, throwing his arms in the air, blaming everybody but himself. He looks like a guy that wants to get out of his situation, but in a way he's fighting to stay in it. There is he. What's he up to?
Chris, look, there's a statement that fish always flop around before they expire. And what we're seeing right now is this president is flailing. He's reaching for oxygen because he knows this investigation is right on his doorstep. And what I think the takeaway from that Fox News interview is the president clearly has been in close counsel with his attorneys. That was a relatively tight message, saying, I did not direct it. Even if it happened, it was civil, not criminal. It's not a campaign finance violation. But the big picture here, Chris, I think after this week, it is hard to foresee a scenario in which this president does not face impeachment proceedings, at least an impeachment investigation in 2019. We now have corroborating witnesses putting him in the room while a felony was being committed, a felony that's been entered into judgment by a federal court. It is hard to see how a Democratic Congress can avoid having to approach an impeachment investigation on that matter, the Cohen matter.
On that moment, on that very point,